Hey there, I'm Mado from English with Mado. Today I'm sharing with you a very interesting video where I will be highlighting 3 different accents in the world: American, Australian and British accent. I will show you a set of words that are spoken differently in each of these countries. That sounds interesting, so stick around. Now we have this. What is this? When you feel cold, you use this. You cover yourself with that specific sheet. Americans use the word comforter. So it's sort of like it makes you comfortable. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's okay. A comforter. Good. Australians use the word doona. I know it sounds a bit funny, but still interesting. However, British use the word duvet. It's more like French, it sounds more French. British had been colonized once in the past, I'm not sure by French people, so that's why they still sort of influenced by some French words. So it's interesting how they use the word duvet. It sounds classic, like classic, amazing. Okay, now we have this photo. What is this? So Americans use the word panties, or even underwear. Okay, underwear, panties, underwear. Makes sense. Australians use the word undies. So undies. British use the word knickers. Quite interesting. Knickers. Very interesting. Another one. Here. What is this? So that's a place where you can grab or buy some alcohol, for example, a beer, a wine, any sort of alcoholic drink. So, Americans use the word liquor store. I'm going to the liquor store. Liquor store. Interesting. Australians use the word bottle shop. That's a bottle shop. Or even, by the way, they might shorten this word and use the word bottle-o. I'm going to the bottle-o. Very interesting. British use the word off license. Off license? That sounds awkward a bit. Off license? As if like you are trying to, talk about something very formal or very official. Off license. I'm going to the off license. Quite interesting. Let's begin with this. What is this? Americans use the word drugstore. That sounds illegal to me. Drugstore, it's originated from the word drug or drugs. It sounds illegal to me. Australians use the word chemist or pharmacy. Pharmacy is not that common, to be honest, but chemist is more commonly used in Australia. In Britain, it's the same as well in Britain. They use the word chemist. I'm going to the chemist to grab some medicines. Okay, so it's quite an easy word. Moving now to another word or another photo. What is this? This might cause some conflict because we have 3 different words for each of these countries. Americans use the word sidewalk. A sidewalk. Australians use the word footpath. Footpath. It's like a path where you can place your feet on. Interesting. However, British use the word pavement. Pavement. It's a pavement. Pavement in Australia is like the material or the surface of the actual footpath or sidewalk. So quite interesting how every single country has a different word. Let's move to another one. This. What is this? Okay, Americans and the British use the word flip-flops. Flip-flops. Quite easy. However, Australians use the word thongs. Thongs. That might sound very hilarious, I know, but thongs is always in the plural form, not thong. So it's always with S. Okay? It's like the thongs. I'm gonna grab the thongs to go to the beach. Okay? Quite interesting. Another one. Here. What is this? So that's called a bonnet in both Australia and Britain. A bonnet. So that's the front of the car. Okay? A bonnet. However, in America, they call this hood. Hood. Quite easy. Now, the back of the car. What is this? So that's called trunk in America. They call this trunk, the trunk of the car. However, in both Australia and Britain, they use the word boots. That's the boot of the car, the boot. Sometimes they use it in the singular form, sometimes in the plural form, it depends. That sounds delicious, or that looks delicious, not sounds. So Americans use the word cotton candy. Cotton candy. I'm gonna have some cotton candy. Very interesting. Australians use the word fairy floss. It sounds very cute. Fairy floss. However, British use the word candy floss. So as you can see, 3 different words for each of the countries. Very amazing. Now let's jump into another photo. What is this? In America, they use the word gas station. And that sounds a bit awkward, gas. It's not a gas, it's a fuel. Okay, but it's still okay. So they call it gas station. I'm going to the gas station. In Australia, they use the word service station or servo. So we always have slangs or like short forms of words. So service station or servo. However, in Britain, they use the word petrol station. That sounds very exact, very precise. Petrol station, I like it, to be honest. Petrol station or service station make more sense than gas station, I assume. That's my opinion. Now, what is this? Americans use the word movie theater. I'm going to the movie theater. Very good. Australians use the word movies. I'm going to the movies. Very short, just very short. However, British use the word cinema. I'm going to the cinema. And I find all of these words interesting except for Australia. Movies? That sounds a bit weird to just use the word movies, I know. So I would say movie theater is more precise, I would say. And cinema is very fashionable, cinema. Not old-fashioned, but it's still fashionable to use the word cinema. Although, by the way, British rely on some old words, like some ancient English words. Sometimes they don't get rid of these words because they still find some interest or some intrigue when they speak these words, and that's very, very fascinating. Okay, now another one here. So now we moved into vegetables. We have this. So in America and in Australia, we call this zucchini. So Americans say zucchini and Australians as well say zucchini. But British use the word courgette, and that's completely French. And as I told you, British people are somehow influenced by French because once in the past they had been colonized. I would say, or I assume, that's my simple knowledge. I have some tiny knowledge about the history of the UK, so I guess so that's why UK or the British people use the word courgette. Courgette. Interesting. Another vegetable. What is this? Same situation as well. Americans and Australians use the word eggplant to describe this. But British people use the word aubergine. Aubergine. And that's completely French as well. But it sounds very good, you know, like very smooth to say aubergine, you know. I love French. It's called the langage du salon, so very classical. I love it. Let's move to something else here. What is this? Americans use the word sneakers. Sneakers is quite international to use. So, I assume every single person in the world who speaks English is quite familiar with this word, sneakers. Australians use the word runners. So I'm gonna have my runners today. Runners. Or sometimes they might use the word joggers. So you use these specific shoes because you can jog in them. Okay? So runners and joggers. British, however, use the word trainers because you can train in them. So as you can see, we have some specific meaning of the usage of that specific shoe for every single country. And it sounds very logical to use every one of these words. Amazing. Okay, moving now to this. Very interesting. What is this? Americans use the word pants. Simple. So that's a pants. It's pants, okay? Australians use the word pants or trousers or even slacks. Some of them might use the word slacks. British people only use the word trousers. Trousers only. They don't use the word pants. Pants in British or in Britain is like what's under the pants, not the actual pants. And that's quite interesting, to be honest. Good. Now let's move back to one of these vegetables. So we have this. Americans use the word bell peppers. Bell peppers? Bell. Yes, because it looks like a bell. Quite interesting. Australians, oh, let's leave Australia to the end because that sounds funny to some of you guys. So let's jump into British. So British people use the word peppers, as simple as that. Peppers. However, Australians use the word capsicums. Capsicums? Have you ever heard of that word before? Yes, it's an English word, capsicums, but it just sounds, I don't know, it sounds very specific, like very special to spell it or to pronounce it. Very interesting. Now, what is this? Americans use the word trash can or garbage can. Australians use the word rubbish bin, or simply they might use the word bin or bins. British use the word bins or bin or even wheelie bins. Wheelie bins, maybe because it has wheels. Wheelie bins, quite interesting. What is this? In America, they use the word mall or mall outlet to describe this. However, in Australia, they use two words, DFO. I'm going to the DFO, and that symbolizes or stands for direct factory outlet. Okay, so DFO, or they might use the word shopping center. I'm going to the shopping center. Shopping center. Very interesting. However, British. In Britain, they're very simple with this word. They only use the word outlet. I'm going to the outlet. So as you can see, we have 3 different words for each of these countries. Quite interesting. Now, let's jump into something else here. What is this? In America, they call this a subway because they have a subway system in America. Subway. In Australia, they call this train, and that's quite old-fashioned. Train, I'm gonna catch the train. Because in Australia, we don't have a specific subway system, so that's why we use train. I'm gonna catch the train. In Britain, they use the word tube. 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 That sounds hilarious to me. Tube. But it's still okay. You know, it still makes sense. Tube. We have this now. What is this in America? What do they call this in America or in the United States? In the United States, they use the word faucet. Faucet. So that's the thing where you can have access to water. Okay? So that's what we call, or that's what Americans call faucet. In Australia, we call this tap water. Tap water. Same for the UK, tap or tap water. Interesting. Now, let's move to this. What is this? So now, we just moved into something edible. So in America, they use the word candies. In Australia, lollies. In Britain, sweets. So we have 3 different words. Candies, lollies, sweets. Quite interesting. Now, the last photo now, for today, this. Americans use the word shopping cart or simply a cart. Shopping cart, cart. Australians use the word trolley. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and activate the bell button to receive all the upcoming videos. I wish you all the best and I look forward to seeing you again on my platform.